All right, good morning, everybody. Glad you could all come out this morning. If you would please put your phones on a silent mode, please, for today's meeting, and we'll get the meeting started. It is Thursday, September 27th, 2018, Santa Rosa County Board of Commissioners. First item of this morning's agenda is Pastor Tom Sharron of Chumuckla Community, Chumuckla, oh boy, where'd I come up with that one?
You know how to say Chumuckla.
Chumuckla Community Church. If I didn't know how to say it, this guy would teach me, I'm sure.
And if you say Chumuckla, we're going to know you're really wrong. So that's right, he's out of it. Thank you for bringing God into this meeting. Lord, we just thank you today for your blessings. And today I'm asking you, Lord, to extend those blessings to people. Father, I pray for the men and women around the world who are stationed there on our behalf and are fighting for our way of life. I ask your blessings on our law enforcement officers, our firefighters, and our first responders, Father, that you might keep them safe today and throughout their careers. I pray, Lord, that you would just be with this group of men and women. I thank you for them and ask you to give them your wisdom, give them your direction, help them to continue to make great decisions based on what's best for the people of this county. I thank you for the men and women who work so hard as employees of this county to carry out the mission of government to make life, the way of life that we have here, continue. So I ask your blessings on these men and women. Bless their families, bless this time, and be a part of this meeting. Give them your grace. In Jesus' name, amen.
Pastor, thanks for coming and being with us this morning. Appreciate it. All right, at this time, we'll go over the approval of the minutes of the following meetings. September 11th, 2018 special meeting on MSBUs. September 12th, 2018 special meeting on tentative budget. September 13th, 2018 regular meeting. And September 18th, 2018 special meeting final budget. I'll ask if there's any changes or notations needed to be made on either of those meetings. Hearing none, I'll move that without objection. Hearing none, it passes. This time I'll start with Commissioner Williamson if there's any changes to today's agenda.
No changes, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Commissioner Salter?
No changes, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Mr. County Administrator?
Sir, I'd like to add two just information items I'd like to update you on in the admin agenda. One on the medical examiner discussions that are going on, and a second one just amplification on the animal services update that Brad provided. No action, but just some of the policy changes that go along with things he discussed Monday that we'll be implementing next Monday.
All right, we'll make those 1 and 2, and then meeting list will change to number 3. All right, any other?
No changes.
Okay, anything? All right, anything from Clerk of Courts or staff? All right, seeing none, today's agenda is approved. This morning we do have 2 proclamations that we'll start out with, and then at 9:30 we have a public hearing. We do have to wait till 9:30 to hold the public hearing. I'll ask that if I miss that, somebody remind me, please. Start out this morning's proclamation with Pink Day. And Commissioner Williamson, if you'll please take that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I see that we have Team Gibbs here this morning. Thank you for what y'all do. Read the proclamation and then come up and join us for a picture, if you would. It's proclamation, County of Santa Rosa, whereas October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, which is an annual campaign to increase awareness of the disease. And while most people are aware of breast cancer, many forget to take the steps to have a plan to detect the disease in its early stages and encourage others to do the same. And whereas breast cancer is the second most common kind of cancer in women, and approximately 1 in 8 women born today in the United States developing breast cancer, with a correlation of this statistic to Santa Rosa County indicates as many as 12% of women in this county could be affected. And whereas National Breast Cancer Awareness Month is a chance to raise awareness about the importance of early detection of breast cancer, and the Pink Pirates of Navarre strive to make a difference and spread the word about mammograms and encourage our communities, organizations, families, and individuals to get involved. And now, therefore, we, the Board of County Commissioners of Santa Rosa County, do hereby support the designation of October 5th, 2018 as Pink Day in Santa Rosa County, and encourage all citizens to observe this day to officially kick off the county's observance of October as Breast Cancer Awareness Month, passed and adopted by the Board of County Commissioners of Santa Rosa County, Florida, this 27th day of September 2018, and signed by our Honorable Chairman, Mr. Bob Cole. If you'd like to say a few words, you're more than welcome to come to the mic. Otherwise, you can come up and grab a picture real quick.
Commissioner Williamson, thank you for reading that, and thank you folks for being here today. Take a moment and share something with you. They're absolutely right, and I can't speak from experience, but on the mammograms, because my wife just recently had one done and they discovered a spot. So for several weeks we were kind of worried about that, but thank the good Lord it was not benign, just some sort of something they want to take out and take care of. And I'm a guy, so I don't go in all them details about that stuff, but I just thank God that they found that, and I certainly would encourage every lady to take advantage of that and get that done. So catch it soon, catch it early. So thank you. All right, our next presentation is, our proclamation is Commissioner Salter is going to have for Jump Day. Commissioner?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Harper, if you'd come forward, please. I want to introduce and recognize Stan Harper. He does a great job keeping us informed about weather, bringing the communities together. I believe that, I know Pensacola is a sister city with one of the communities in Japan. And in Milton, did they ever?
Milton has not, Santa Rosa.
Okay. So Pensacola did.
They have been working toward that the last 2 years.
Great.
On a sister city.
I'm going to read the proclamation, then we'll let you say a few words.
Sure, thank you.
County of Santa Rosa proclamation, whereas United States Forces Japan has 54,000 military personnel serving in the Japanese islands today, with an additional 42,000 dependents living alongside our servicemen and women overseas. And whereas the Japan-U.S. military JUMP program is a collaborative effort between Sasakawa Peace Foundation USA, the Embassy of Japan in the United States, and the National Association of Japan American Societies working to connect past and present service members, families, and government civilians who have served in Japan. And whereas we must acknowledge the immense importance of our military presence and support of our ally Japan and the good work that JUMP conducts promoting the powerful foundation for sustaining the solid alliance and relationship that exists between the U.S. and Japan, and whereas an increase in community awareness is necessary to express our appreciation to further strengthen the community of those who have and will serve in Japan, let it therefore be now, therefore, we, the Board of County Commissioners of Santa Rosa County, do hereby proclaim October 6, 2018 to be Jump Day in Santa Rosa County, and encourage all citizens to recognize Jump Day and be part of
The Japan-U.S. military program at Naval Air Station of Pensacola at the National Aviation Museum from 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock.
Okay. Passed and adopted the Board of County Commissioners of Santa Rosa County, Florida, this 27th day of September 2018, signed by the Board of County Commissioners, our esteemed Chairman, Commissioner Bob Cole. Stan, we appreciate everything you do. I know that the relationship between the United States and Japan is important. My late father-in-law was a retired Navy. My wife spent 3 years in Japan with her Navy dad, so we understand.
Well, I appreciate what the Santa Rosa County Commissioners have done, signing Jump Day, encouraging our citizens to be part of this. We have a lot of retired and active military personnel in Santa Rosa County. Matter of fact, Commander Harris from VT-3 at Whiting, he was stationed at Sasebo, and during his tour of duty, he was also part of the rescue mission after the tsunami. So he is going to do a presentation and also show some of the video he took from his Humvee during that operation. So we're looking forward to that presentation from him. Also, our new Florida Consulate General that just took office for the state of Florida, Hakatawa, is going to be in Pensacola. This will be his first visit to Northwest Florida in our area. Before we had Consul General, which was our first Japanese or diplomat to visit Santa Rosa County 2 years ago. I think Commissioner Salter was part of that economic meeting that we had with him. He is now serving in Geneva and working on special projects for the Japanese government under NATO. So we want to welcome, we hope you all come out and meet our new Consulate General. He'll be coming up from Miami, and he's also going to be bringing some premium sake for the reception afterwards. So there you go. So I hope that Commissioner Salter does come out and present that to Ambassador Zenawat, who is also the CEO of the Sasakawa Peace Foundation out of Washington, D.C., who will also be in attendance.
Stan, if you'll come forward and have you make us look good.
Great relationship. All right. Again, at 9:30, we'll have a public hearing, so I'm going to go ahead and go through the agenda. This morning, we move now to the consent agenda. The Administrative Committee, Economic Development Committee, Engineers Report, Public Service, Public Works, and also Budget and Finance were discussed on Monday and moved all those items to the consent agenda. This time, is there any items that any commissioners, staff, or public would like to re-investigate or review prior to moving the consent agenda?
Sir, just one point of clarification, a change that occurred between Monday's agenda and this agenda. The budget amendments that we reviewed on Monday, we talked about the A4 refurbishment and repainting out at the rest area. We don't require a budget amendment any longer for that. So what is listed as budget amendment 213 was 214 on Monday, but it's the same. So we just removed one and renumbered, just for clarification.
All right. So that's item number 31 under the budget amendment?
Yes, sir.
2018-213?
Yes, sir. It's the same, it's the exact same action that was reviewed, but it's just been renumbered to 213.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and read it in the record. This is recommend approval of the budget amendment 2018-213 in the amount of $37,920 to reconcile fiscal year 2018 DRG grant final amounts and recognize the new fiscal year 2019 award in the amount of $29,169 for the period of July 1st, 2018 through grant end June 30th, 2019. Also recognize total carry forward in the amount of $8,751 from REPI reimbursement reserves for fiscal year 2019 approved match. The 2019 grant award and match was approved by the Board of County Commissioners on August 9th, 2018. So that's in the record now. Any other comments or questions about the consent agenda? Seeing none, I'll move the consent agenda without objection. Hearing none, it passes. Under Administrative Committee, Dan, you have the first two items.
Yes, sir. Just an update for the board on the ongoing negotiations with our District 1 medical examiner. The 4 counties signed a letter out with an offer to the District 1 medical examiner. That offer was rejected by Dr. Minyard with a counteroffer to provide operational expenses that were requested, as well as an additional per service fee for autopsies, observations, and examinations. That per service fee would actually increase the amount of money being paid to Gulf Coast Autopsies over the professional services line that we have been operating under in the past. And our assessment and the other counties' assessment is that per service fee would exceed the budgeted amounts that have been approved by the counties, and so the counties are not accepting the counteroffer, if you will. So we have a call this afternoon at 2 o'clock to discuss a counter, but the negotiations continue. Obviously, we're approaching the end of the fiscal year, Sunday night. Dr. Minyard has submitted her resignation effective as midnight Sunday night, unless there's a deal made before that. So this has the attention of the state attorney. The sheriffs are obviously now very interested, and we're looking at a couple of options. We'll discuss those this afternoon with the other counties and go forward from there. I guess what I'm looking for is any guidance the board would have from our position and sort of the authority to operate within the budget that you approved to make a deal so that we can have medical examiner services come Monday morning.
Comments from board members? Mr. Salter?
Mr. Chairman, a question for Dan. I thought when all this started, the medical board was going to meet and make a recommendation. Did they ever do that?
Yes, sir. The Medical Examiner Commission met in early July. They elected to continue Dr. Minyard while this, both the litigation and the audit, that litigation is ongoing, the audit was complete while those things continued. And so we're still operating under that interim, I guess, appointment for Dr. Minyard.
Mr. Chairman?
Commissioner?
Dan, could we, worst case scenario, sign a month-to-month agreement honoring the pricing that she's already agreed to, while we then simultaneously go out for an opening for another medical examiner, but make sure that it's in the agreement that while that's ongoing, she won't be able to end the relationship, just so we know we have services in the interim?
I think that's one of the things that we'll talk about this afternoon. One of the options is to see if she would be agreeable to continuing under the current terms, if you will, extending on a month-to-month basis the procedures and costs that we've been operating under for the last several years as an option. It is then up to, I think, the state attorney and the medical examiner commission to make a different hiring decision. We don't necessarily control that or are involved in that.
My main concern was the recording and accounting of the taxpayer dollars that were allocated to that entity and her unwillingness to provide a full and detailed report of where those monies were going. It wasn't so much questioning the value or the price. So I don't want to say I'm not concerned about the price, because I am, because we have a certain budget amount, but if if she's going to agree to the current arrangement, month to month, there's nothing statutorily that would keep us from doing that, or if we have to go with the higher price, I'm fine with it. But obviously, this is going to be something somebody else is probably going to rule on. But for me, the most important thing was the accounting of every penny of taxpayer dollars associated with their service. So if she's unwilling to do that, I would hope we'd be able to move quickly.
That's the basis for the litigation that's ongoing, and we have entered into negotiations in regard to a contract with her, at least at this point, because as Mr. Shebler points out, we don't get a choice on who the medical examiner is. That's done by the governor's office after the recommendation by the medical examiner committee, and if necessary, on an emergency temporary interim type basis by the state attorney. But we don't get a choice in that. So as far as funding it, the thought at this point would be to keep status quo, at least from our point, until we're able to resolve this with her or her successor.
And last follow-up, has she to this point provided any of the accounting full detail?
She's provided a good bit of information. I don't know that it's all the information that the auditors have requested, but she's provided a good bit of that, yes.
Okay. Evidently not enough that warrants a approval of the new agreement.
We haven't gotten that far.
10-4.
Dan, I think, my reaction to what I've heard from the board is that, you continue negotiations. If we can do it month to month, fine. If you have I would think a reasonable increase that's within budget that you think's appropriate, I for one would feel like, giving you the ability to move forward with that without having to come back to the board. I think you've been very prudent with our budget and done a good job with that, so I would feel comfortable allowing you to have some leeway there and latitude to be able to make some adjustments if it means coming to a conclusion.
Yes, sir, that's basically in the interim until our next meeting on the 8th and 10th of October. Any final agreement and final terms would obviously come back to the board for your approval, but sure, just this operating period between Sunday night at midnight until we meet again on the 8th of October, I'm looking for the approval, I guess, to kind of go ahead, and I'll let you know what that results of this afternoon's teleconference is with the counties and any resolution we come to with the medical examiner as soon as we have one.
So we can make our decision tonight. So can we make our decision at tonight's meeting, so we have the benefit of that 2 o'clock conference call information?
Yeah, I don't know that we'll have a decision for you to make a decision on tonight. What the call this afternoon is from the county's perspective to make a counter offer, and that may be to continue under the current terms or on a month-to-month basis, but I don't think we'll have an acceptance or anything back from Dr. Minyard, but we can provide an update this evening.
Thank you, Dan. Appreciate it. Your other item?
I think the second thing, Brad came and provided you an animal services update based upon the meeting and presentation we had down in Tiger Point. I just wanted to talk about two additional things, some changes that we're implementing in addition to the revision to the policy manual on the breeds that was discussed. A few more specifics. One, the county's animal services policy on trapping animals and providing trapping services for animals is going to change. We're going to stop doing that. That just brings additional animals into our shelter that then we further have to handle in one way or another. And the second one is we're going to adjust the available hours and open hours to the public. What that will do is we'll provide staff the time to do the cleaning, to do the assessments, to do the work that's necessary, then open to the public to process adoptions or intakes, in a smaller window of time. But it will still be open to the public every day, but we're just going to refine those hours to provide better service overall. I think any changes to our ordinance, that was the other request that you all had for Brad to take a look at, will We'll wait the assist visit that will occur at the end of the month, end of October. We'll get the results of that, take a look at our ordinance. We're already conducting a review in comparison with other neighboring counties' ordinances and the kinds of things that they may do. They had a very successful site visit over to Escambia County with their Animal Services Department. But we'll bring those ordinance changes probably after the first of the year is what I anticipate. So I just wanted to provide that sort of additional detail to what Brad provided on Monday.
Any questions? All right, seeing none. Dan, thank you for the updates, and good luck with the medical examiner. So, all right, the next item on the regular agenda is the meeting list. We have a Marine Advisory on October 2nd, 5 o'clock, and otherwise, unless I note otherwise, they will be held in this room. Tourist Development Council Board at Tiger Point Community Center. That will be on October 4th at 8:30 a.m. Library Advisory at Library Administrative Center. That'll be on October 4th at 11 a.m. Commission meeting, our next commission meeting is October 8th at 9 a.m. Fire Department Executive Group, October 8th at 6 p.m. Next regular commission meeting is October 10th at 9 a.m. Building Code Board of Adjustments, October 10th at 2:30. That one is in the Public Service Conference Room on Old Baghdad Highway. And then the last item listed for this is the Zoning Board. The next Zoning Board meeting will be October 10th at 6 p.m. And all these are available on hard copy and also available for you on our website.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to make an announcement that the Marine Advisory Committee, after consulting with the Marine Advisory Board and a lack of items to go before them, that meeting as of today is being canceled.
All right. So noted, that's the October 2nd at 5 o'clock. So that Marine Advisory Committee is canceled for October.
Sir, I'd just like to point out that that first set of meetings, we're meeting on Monday and Wednesday, the 8th and the 10th. It's there, but I just wanted to highlight that because that's different. In order to maintain and have a quorum, we're going to meet Monday and Wednesday that week as opposed to our normal Monday, Thursday.
Okay, so noted. All right, anything else? And while we're talking Marine Advisory, I did go down to the end of the Yellow River Bridge, and it looks like the boat ramp's getting some attention now. They did pave the road down to the old boat ramp, and for those that are watching, we've already put in an application to the Marine Advisory to get some funding to kind of shore that up a little bit when the construction's through. So that ramp will eventually be reopened to fishing boats, small boats. We're not going to enlarge the ramp or make it for bigger boats. It'll still be a little fishing boat ramp. So, all right, at this time, go to the public hearing.
Just want to approve the meeting list, sir.
Oh, yes, sir. Okay, and I'll approve the Administrative Committee agenda and meeting list without objection. Hearing none, it passes. Under Economic, Engineers Report, Public Service, Public Works, and Budget and Finance, we have no regular agenda items, so I'll move all those non-items without objection. And at this time, I'll open it to the public hearing. This is a public hearing. It's a public hearing is to amend the Santa Rosa County Comp Plan and CIP ordinance. Dan, would you take that, please?
Yes, sir. This is to incorporate Swenson Park capital improvements. They were presented to the Parks and Recreation Committee last night. There were no questions, and the item was recommended for approval. This is in line with the grant application that was discussed for Swenson Park. So this incorporates that capital improvement project into our comprehensive plan. To add to that, that's what we're doing here, is just adding that to the comprehensive plan CIP.
All right. Any comments from fellow board members? Seeing none, I'll open the floor to the public comments on this public hearing. Anybody out there? All right. Okay. At this time, I'll close the floor to the public for a public hearing, and I'll move this item without objection. Seeing none, it passes. All right, at this time, we'll go to public forum. Anybody that would like to make a comment?
Mr. Chair, before Sean leaves, can I just make a quick comment?
Absolutely. Sean?
Just want to say thanks and let you know that I received an email yesterday related to a project that will be pushing information out. It's down in Navarre, Constitution Drive and Navarre School Road. Some safety improvement projects. One of them will be closing one of the medians where we've had some traffic accidents there, and then the other one that will be very well received is Navarre School Road, which leads to a school, but also you have the post office there, and the Navarre Board of Realtors office is right down there, and it adds a dedicated right turn lane there, which will be very well received and help with safety and help traffic, and it actually they'll repave Navarre School Road, and the District 3 Transportation Office and Sean and his staff have worked really hard on this and identifying those two improvements and helped deliver it pretty quickly, and just want to say thanks. Great job.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, public hearing.
Good morning, Commissioners, County staff. Thank you for this opportunity to speak and for all the work you're doing for our county. My name is Rodney Sutton, 102 Shoreline Drive, but today I'm a resident of Santa Rosa County, but I'm really here representing the Ashley Plantation Homeowners Association. Have some homeowners here that are also wanting to address issues that we're having there. I was part of a group that took over that development sort of late in the game. It was a great community, 479 lots that started pre-recession and was the victim of the recession, and there were some pieces of Ashley Plantation that needed to be finished up, and our group took over and finished the last couple of phases in there. Now I serve on the HOA board at their pleasure. Don't really have any remaining development to do there, but what we discovered that there were some issues that really the residents there needed some help with, and we've been working our way through those with the county's help, which we thank you for greatly. So the one thing that we're here to talk about today is flooding issues that have been occurring at Ashley Plantation. I'm sure you've never heard about flooding issues in Santa Rosa County before, but we are definitely experiencing them. And so it's been an ongoing issue. There have been a number of things that have happened in Ashley Plantation. The primary builder in there is under consent order with the DEP cleaning up ponds. There's certainly been instances where swales and culverts were not constructed the way they should have been constructed and have caused continuing problems. Some of those things on a priority basis have been addressed by Roads and Bridges Department, and I just want to go on record as saying thank you to Mr. Furman for being a great asset to the community, addressing those as priorities allow. Limited resources, limited labor in his department have forced some tough decisions, and some issues still remain today. I mean, there's quite a few issues, but the one that we're here to primarily discuss today is at sort of the south bend of Alderbrook in Ashley Plantation. There's 479 homes in Ashley Plantation. It's a very proud community, and they have a lot to be proud of. It's beautiful in there, and these are county residents that organize well, work together well, whether it's educational issues or a number of other issues. I mean, I think you would find that it would be a community that any one of us would be proud to live in from that perspective. And I've gained a lot of good friendships in there. I've gotten to know these folks that are behind me, and I can tell you that the issue that we're going to show you today and discuss with you today is a very emotional issue. There's real fear that happens every time it rains in this community with these folks, and you're about to see why. There are real tears that I've experienced, and it becomes an emotional issue for me to stand up here and address it with you guys, knowing what these folks are dealing with. So you'll get to hear about that, and I may have a few more comments I'd like to make, but I really want to defer to them to discuss this. But I just want to sort of last upfront comment is to say that the county also has an issue here. And I think Mr. Furman knows that there's, damage to public property, ponds, roads, utilities that are happening and are going to continue to happen. And I think that there's a very specific ask that we'd love for one of you guys to champion for us today. The Commissioner Parker's not here on behalf of Ashley Plantation, but action needs to be taken, in our opinion, going forward, and we need some help. So the specific ask will come up, but suffice it to say that the pictures you're going to see are very emotional issues for these folks. So I'd like to defer to them and answer any questions. Do you have the pictures?
I do. Tell me which ones you'd like to have displayed. All of them?
All of them?
Yeah, we'll just
Yep,
kind
just start.
of narrate as we see them. Okay, so this is video of,
Why don't you
during
why don't you give your name and address?
I'm sorry, I'm Charlotte Hutto. That's my husband Ken, and we are at 2673 Tulip Hill Road. This is basically in our and the Long's backyard, and this is during a rain video of how that goes. That's our fence. It's still sort of hanging on by a thread. Luckily, our dogs get along, so we've got that going for us. This is the latest hole, and it, spans both yards, as you'll see in a minute. This is basically trying to show the strength of the water when it rains. This particular one was the Tropical Storm Gordon, but we have it similar with less force, even like this morning when it rained. Here's another. This is the looking out the front. That is the Long's truck, and the house there is my house with all the mud water around it. That's my husband. I didn't know you were in there. I'm sorry. Looking more at this, there is a street there. Okay. This is a shot of the county property that is behind our house. This would be, you're looking back up, and behind the person taking the picture is the pond. So it's, also eroding here. And we think that probably there are problems with that retaining pond, which that is the retaining pond. So you see where the water wants to go there. It's, overwhelmed. That's looking out from your backyard, I believe, and we would be to the right. There is the, kind of looking back. I think that's supposed to be a dry pond. We've not seen it that way, so. This is again on county property. This is us looking back up at our homes from the retaining pond. The house there on the left is my home, and then the right one was the Longs. This is how it looks right now. We took this a day or two ago, Monday, we call this the beach because that's our dirt. That's used to be in our yard. And, that's got to be causing problems on the county property. There's our, what we call it, like the beach. And that, actually right there, as of this morning, that big one, because we've had rain, 3 days in a row, and it's actually bigger now, just from regular rain. Again, how it looks when it's actually raining, that's facing my home from the Long's house. And it kind of goes through pretty fast as well.
Let me just make one comment here that I just want the commissioners and staff to know that this is not a situation where we're necessarily asking that the county do everything. I want you to know that the HOA has stepped up and has hired an engineer from an HOA-owned lot that is just north of this position, experiencing the same problems that you see right in this picture. That we hired an engineer to do some design work and make some suggestions as to fixes that might be done on the county property that is sort of causing this problem on us downstream. And so we're trying to, we're willing to spend money and partner, and the county has stepped up in response to that and used those designs to do some work and create some new inlets north of this position, or upstream from this position, I'll call it. So, and then these residents, of course, have done everything they can too to help themselves, and including spending money to try to fix these with large riprap and fill to try to stabilize these positions. But you can see here what's coming at them is not something that they can manage on their own. They really need some help here. And so while we are taking these incremental steps, we just feel like Mr. Furman's in a position where his available resources and available labor to do the sort of things that need to be done are a bit hamstrung, and it's going to take action, from the commission to help him allocate those resources to help get this situation. I mean, you can see here, this is their backyard. This is not them taking a normal amount of water and trying to deal with it. What they're being hit with is just not fair. So, I just want to add this comment.
So yeah, that's us again on the left and Long's on the right. The rocks you see, we tried to fix it. We had them, and I think I'm stepping ahead here, but it goes with the picture that there's like 10 tons of that. I think it's called riprap. And it's supposed to be like 50 to 100-pound rocks, and they burst through the county chain link fence, and they're now kind of headed towards the county retaining pond. So, we did fill it in once, and this is on the opposite side of my home. For us, this started in 2016, about 3 months after we moved into this house, was the first time it washed away. So we fixed it and thinking that, hey, that was a one-off, and clearly it's not. Ours, it goes around our house, and there is a picture coming up. So this is the opposite side of the Longs, and now we have a new hole coming on this side. That's my driveway. I took this picture one day. I was going to be trying to leave to go to my mother's, and I couldn't back out of the thing because they say your car can go in about a couple of inches. Well, it was coming really fast, and it's coming from, I didn't really want to speak to causes because obviously I'm not an expert, but it does come from a situation up on county and easement, a property that isn't ours. It's coming. This is looking from my front porch. We're standing on our front porch. And that's my mailbox, or half of it.
I'd like to say that.
Yeah.
Where's the
In
sand
looking at
coming
these
from?
pictures,
Excuse me, where's the sand coming from that I'm seeing there? Is that coming from a lot that's under construction that washed out, or all that sand that I'm seeing right there? Where's that coming from?
The entire neighborhood from the main road, Alderbrook, as best I can tell.
Okay.
Commissioner Williamson, also, immediately
Yeah.
across
Oh, I
the
see the pipe
street
there.
from these
Okay.
properties it's an HOA-owned parcel that has a drainage easement on it, and immediately north of that parcel is the main road coming into Ashley Plantation, Alderbrook Boulevard. And so what's happening is that the water coming down Alderbrook has not been able to get into the inlets on Alderbrook quick enough, and it jumps the curb and flows across this HOA-owned property where we have our drainage easement. So we have pipes underground. The water's flowing overland through there, and it, on several occasions in the past, has completely eroded that HOA property and the properties adjacent to it. There have been ongoing efforts for a couple of years building berms and trying to contain the water up at Alderbrook to force it into the inlets. But our efforts thus far have not been able to address every storm event that's happened. And what we have just completed this past week is enlarging an inlet above what was originally designed on Alderbrook. We have another inlet that we're going to enlarge, and we replaced one pipe underground with a larger pipe from these inlets to try to capture more of this water. But when it breaks overland, it's eroding that HOA-owned property, and it's been eroded several times, so it's an open wound, and that's where all the sand's coming from.
So thank you for looking at the pictures and all.
One thing I wanted to mention, I think, Ken Hutto, 2673 Tulip Hill Road in Ashley Plantation. Rodney mentioned this, that we have tried, and one thing I wanted to point out is that we didn't run to you at the first sign of trouble. This started immediately after we moved in 3 years ago, and here are some of the things that we've tried, just to let you know. We've made an attempt to do things on our own as homeowners. They just haven't worked. So we have re-landscaped with sod, mulch, pine straw 3 times. We had a contractor install new basins and drain pipes from our gutters, so they hit a basin and go away from the damage that you saw. We have purchased and placed sandbags around the area. We've constructed rock walls to try to divert the water, and the sandbags, the rock walls, 10 tons of riprap is what we put in the hole, and had a contractor come in and try to slope it with the 10 tons of riprap with the rock walls and the sandbags. The contractor also put more drain basins in that area with drain lines, trying to get it out so it doesn't damage the area. After the flood at Gordon, we had to have a tree removed. I don't even know how it was standing there. It was just roots, but it was threatening the Long's house. So we have to come in and have a guy take out the tree. We've purchased flood insurance, and all of this total over 3 years, we have spent $5,500 of our own money trying to address this ourselves. And at this point, I don't know what to do. That's why we're here. Thank you.
Can you add, the last thing I wanted to add is most of the shots were looking up towards our house. It's kind of eroding a little bit every time it rains, and as my husband measured it, it's about 30 feet from the corner of my house, which is my master bedroom. And that's the direction it's going. It gets another couple of inches closer each time.
Hi, Heidi Long. We're at 2677 Tulip Hill Road. Sorry. We're about 40 feet from our house to the edge of the erosion, and it's very scary. I have never experienced something like this ever. And coming into this neighborhood with $300,000 plus of a home, experiencing hopefully a retirement place, and then figuring out 6 months after you purchase a house, we start seeing erosions. Gordon is the one that really damaged our place. We're not really sure what to do either. I'm not a person who continues to fix and rework. I need one resolution, and with your help, having those preventive basins or whatever it is to collect water, either on the Tulip Hill Road on the north side, south side, any help is greatly appreciated, so we can fix our lots to have that experience of just regular lifestyle. But right now, it's psychological. We're angry because we have unplanned expenses due to this erosion. We have fear. Every time it rains, the anxiety is very high. What else can we do? So we're here to ask for your help. Thanks.
Yes, sir.
I'm Troy Long. Live at 2677 Tulip Hill Road. Just spoke to my wife. My biggest scare in this whole situation is right now, after the last hurricane, the tropical system that went through, is the back end. The back end, which is a county land, that part is now eroding to the point of it's got to be at least 70 feet wide, and you can see where if that part goes next, it's going to take out that entire hill, and it's not going to stop. There's no mechanism for anything to stop it. And there's some pictures in there that it looks like it's starting to bury underneath, and that all happened just this last time. And if that goes, that whole hill is just going to, it's not going to be good. And then our houses are definitely in play, which are already in play. We really would like you guys to help us out.
All right. Ronnie, give me just a moment.
Yes, sir.
Stephen, you're obviously aware of this, and I don't know, as a board member, since you're already aware of it, what kind of other direction you would need from us, or working with the engineering department. Can you help me a little bit with maybe what plans you already have in place so we don't.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. What the County Public Works has been looking at is the engineering report that the HOA's engineer produced, and we are implementing some of those items. Now, there's some items that are going to be extremely high capital expenditures, and our approach has been to try to handle those things in-house with our budget that we can handle, and that's enlarging the inlets. We dug up a smaller pipe, replaced it with a larger pipe. We're reworking ditches to try to get some of the water to divert away from this area. But these are small incremental type things that aren't going to provide even myself a level of assurance, much less the people experiencing this, a level of assurance that we have fully addressed it. One of the things that this board did a few years ago after the 2014 flood event on Tulip Hill in another area that had started to develop, and these homes were not built during the 2014 event. It was wooded property, which is probably why the erosion was not experienced, because it was before homes were built. But further down the street, there was some significant erosion along Tulip Hill on private property, and the county obtained a new drainage easement which connected to one we already had, and we added a new pipe and a new inlet down the hill between the properties to go into this same retention pond so that we could capture more of the water from the street, control it in a pipe. The Huttos and the Longs have expressed to me a initial willingness to grant the county a new drainage easement. We don't have a drainage easement at all between their two properties where all of this significant erosion that you've seen in the videos is being experienced. But we could and believe that if we accepted a drainage easement there, that we could have a pipe system, inlet and pipe system engineered to capture a lot of the water that is jumping and flowing through their yards and safely convey it into our retention pond. So that's an action that I think they have as an asking. They just haven't gotten to it yet. I was talking with them before the meeting and then earlier or late last week. And so that action is something that perhaps county engineering could do in-house on the engineering, and that would accept a lot of the storm water that the roadway swells and the current drainage system just having an inadequate time addressing. And then we'll continue to look upstream at some of the areas and stabilizing to try to capture more water in the pipe system that's already present so that it doesn't overland flow and create the erosion that Commissioner Williamson mentioned noticing in the videos. So there are some possible action items that would greatly enhance the drainage for this area.
But while we're having the weather we're having, it's an impossibility to get out there, even with their willingness to, grant the easement. Am I correct in that, or is this workable during this?
Well,
as wet as everything is, I guess is what.
Well, to get the easement drafted and approved and moving forward, certainly could take place in the next few weeks, along with an engineering design happening simultaneously. And then with the design in hand, it would be up to the board to decide whether it's something that we're going to be able to handle in-house with road and bridge forces or hire a contractor to do, so that we can get in there in a timely manner and with full force to try to take care of all the items that need to be done. So I feel like that if we start now on that we can make meaningful progress over the coming months.
Okay.
Can you hear me? I'd like to add that the HOA is also willing to grant any needed easement that might help the engineering design that you come up with, because clearly, the dirt is coming from the HOA lot, but we're in a position, and we've spent a substantial amount of money as well, we're in a position as an HOA looking out for the entire community that we really can't berm off that lot, because if we do, it diverts water to adjacent homeowners who are also just as emotional as these folks here. If they were here today, you'd understand it's the same situation, and they're trying to protect their homes. And literally, if we were to block the river that's coming at the HOA lot, it would flood their homes immediately. So we have no choice but to take it. But on the other hand, we have a budget for improvements as an HOA, and because it's to the benefit of so much of the subdivision to solve this problem, we're willing to spend money to do things on the HOA lot. And if there needs to be a retention basin or something on that lot, or an additional inlet on that lot to cap, because we all know the quicker you get the water underground, the better, you know. And so we're willing to dedicate an easement and resources that are available to us to partner up on this. So just want you to know that is available.
All right, good. And it certainly makes things easier when when we can work together. I got a question, and I feel like we need to cover it for, people, citizens that may be watching, okay? Because we have problems in other areas.
Sure.
If we're going to correct this one, we're going to have other citizens expecting theirs corrected, which, that's our responsibility. But, we're often told that these new subdivisions are going to contain their water. You've been here 20 years, don't worry about water coming in your yard. These new homes are going to take care of it. So my question's to Roger, how do we get here to where we're at today with all the new implementation that's in place? What got missed somewhere, I guess, is the only way I know how to
We're
put
going to
it.
have to go, we're going to have to do a lot of forensic work to backtrack and see what the difference between what was approved, what was constructed. Some of the things they were describing to me indicate that. We're looking at some capacity issue on Alderbrook. It's going to be something I can't answer out here today.
Okay.
But certainly we will produce and go back through and look at it. Maybe not in-house. We may even have to move to one of our consulting contracts if it's something we need to be doing immediately just because of the current workload. But we will certainly report back. And also, as a result of Monday's meetings, we've already started within our department looking at those things that we think need to be upgraded and changed within the LDC. So we're already looking at that. And one of the things specifically addresses that have been noted is the Ashley Plantation ribbon curb for those large frontage lots and swell drainage. That just has demonstrated that it's not effective because of the erosion and the steepness of the topography in that subdivision. So those are one things that immediately rise to the top that we're looking at, and we'll be coming back very shortly to the board with specific recommendations, and then I'll get with Mr. Shebler about where do we move from here if the board's decisions move forward with an engineering evaluation.
Okay, and just one other thing, I got to get these off my mind while I'm thinking about them. Stephen, do you see anything? To me, the most immediate need is any house that could be damaged. 30 feet away from a house, another hard rain, now we're 10 feet away from the house or worse. So, and I'm not looking for an answer. As one board member, I think one of the things we need to do is look for something that's quick and immediate to prevent it from getting worse. And then, because it sounds like with Roger's saying and what you're saying and getting through the paperwork part of it with Roy, it's nothing that's going to happen immediately, but we could get another hard rain, several hard rains between that. So I'm going to rely on staff to come up with some answers there. So other Commissioner Soller than Commissioner Williams.
Mr. Chairman, I'm somewhat familiar with Ashley Plantation. I live about probably 5 miles from you guys. I've been out there before Commissioner Parker was elected and worked on some of the erosion problems, so I'm familiar with it. Rodney, you talked about there's a consent order against one of the developers.
Commissioner, there's my understanding, okay, is there's a consent order, and Mr. Furman might be able to verify this with more detail, but that there's a consent order against D.R. Horton, who's building most of the homes in that area, that there's been a lot of runoff from their construction sites that have damaged ponds and sand filters that are in those ponds, and that they're having to clean that up as a result of the consent order that's in place. And I think for these folks here today, if that pond were operating better, it might be able to take more water and clear those pipes out if it were performing properly. So it could very well be, and again, not an expert, that pond's not performing right. It's supposed to be a dry pond. It has an alligator and fish jumping all the time. There's an ecosystem there, so I don't know when the last time it was actually dry. So, and I don't know that the damage was caused by the builders, but we see the dirt that's running into it every day, every time it rains, so we know there's got to be a problem there. But that's a big task that I'm not sure addresses the river that's coming at their house. So I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question, but I do know that the builder is having to do cleanup right now as we speak.
And I just wanted to get clear with that, so I would understand where that is.
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Salter?
Yes.
Just Stephen over here. The consent order that DEP has against D.R. Horton, and that's the builder, is not related to this particular pond. There are multiple ponds in Ashley Plantation. The ponds that are affected by the consent order are the ponds to the north of here. As you cross the bridge, there's a pond on either side of a pond system on either side of the Ashley Plantation Bridge, and those are the ponds that are currently under the consent order. So that water is a different watershed than is affecting these particular lots. Now, what might have happened in the past with runoff from construction sites and, blinding the sand filter, that I don't have any history on.
And just so y'all know, we had a lengthy discussion at the Monday meeting regarding Ashley Plantation. Commissioner Parker is very aware of some of the issues out there. My position is going to be to ask staff to move as quickly as possible to come up with an engineering solution, and anything that we can do to fix the erosion around these houses, let's do that as quickly as possible and bring us something back within a very quick time frame so we can make a decision on what we can do as a county to partner with the HOA and get this problem fixed.
One important item that I need to make sure is clear is that where the erosion on their private property is, we don't have any type of easements, and so it would take direction from this board to allocate the road and bridge resources to do work on private property, and that's something that I defer to Mr. Andrews on if any legal issues.
Bring us back recommendations on how to fix it.
And I would add to Commissioner Salter's comments, Roy, can we, the three of us, allow Stephen on private property until you can get an easement drawn up?
Well, we can get an easement drawn up or consent to enter into private property very rapidly.
All right,
So
if you can get that,
make the direction, I can make the.
Do we need to vote on that to do that? Or do you have to have it ready and then vote on it?
Well, you can direct me to working with engineering and public works to come up with a documentation that would allow us to do something now to deal with the erosion issue.
All right, do I have consent of the board to move forward? Commissioner Williamson?
Well, I think I agree with Commissioner Salter to directing staff to look for immediate solutions that would be available, and I'm sure that would be one of those immediate solutions that could be provided. So I don't know that I'm prepared to make a decision on that today, but it seems like we're all heading in that direction, that by the next set of meetings or in the next week that we could go ahead and make sure we've got a plan of attack. This is, first I'm really diving into this right now. I agree with the chairman's questions, and to me what's concerning most of all is that we do have, our county code does require the developer to contain stormwater on site, and I'm sure this probably would have required an engineered site plan and stormwater drainage plan. So our folks had to evaluate that plan and approve that plan. And if you look at the elevations, and I've got clients and I'm pretty familiar with that neighborhood as well, I'm wondering how we ended up here too. And this has been going on for a couple of years, to talk about evaluating solutions now, we probably should have already looked at ways that we could have improved, but we find ourselves here. The most frustrating thing for me is that the developer is probably not going to end up paying for this, and county taxpayers are going to end up leaning in and paying for solutions here, and the developer's already down the road to the next thing. That's what I feel, Dan, that staff needs to really try to rewind the clock on and see where did we, as Chairman Cole said, where did some get missed? Because this is there's oftentimes we hear about solutions where the county is expected to go in and fix a stormwater drainage flooding issue or put in sidewalks or kind of fix things after the fact. And Stephen and his team are trying to do the best they can to go in there and fix things after the fact. I just don't think it should be the responsibility of our Public Works Department to go in and fix things after the fact. And I don't think it's taxpayers' responsibility to be going in there to fix it in a private neighborhood with private HOA, or if it's another one. It's going to happen over time as you grow. There's going to be things that get missed, but this isn't the oldest of neighborhoods in Santa Rosa County, right? So,
It's about 10 years old.
so you would think that this is one that you wouldn't be experiencing this, that if we had all of those measures in place, that we would have been able to catch it. But I guess, Roy, now it's our responsibility to work with the HOA to pay for fixes, or
It's the direction of the board as to what our responsibility is.
I understand. Well, I know that this is the only neighborhood where we have these types of issues and or complaints. The pictures that we've seen, these certainly require immediate sense of urgency to address.
We've accepted the drainage system out there for maintenance, so we do have a responsibility in that regard.
Okay. Well, I agree with Commissioner Salter's recommendation. Short term, what are the solutions that we can lean in on? But I think overall, long term internally, we need to look at examples of where mistakes were made like this, and instead of just moving on to the next neighborhood, take that time to do a little forensic digging and say, all right, what can we do next time to make sure that gets better? And I know you'll be doing that, Dan. Thanks for coming here today.
Mr. Chairman.
I think you're going to get the support you need.
A few more comments, and we'll move on. What I'd like to see us do, come up with an immediate fix as best we can, and look at the long-term fix too. Partner with the HOA, and any deviation from our land development code, Roger, that this developer deviated from, that we fix it, and that we bill him, and until he pays up, we don't approve any more of his projects. Thank you.
You got a second on that, and I think a third.
Absolutely.
You got
Now
it
we're talking.
unanimous right now, so. But one thing, I agree with what Commissioner Williamson said, but I don't want to wait 2 weeks. I want to see something. I want to go ahead and have Roy get the paperwork done so we can get the easement from these folks. And, if we can do it as soon as tomorrow, be in there preventing any more loss of your property. And that may be all we can do in the short term, is just, stop it from getting worse, getting closer to your home. And I think we should. I don't want to have this discussion when it's 10 feet away. And I can understand if we have a hard storm and you're trying to sleep at night, wondering how much in the next morning, or if you can even sleep, how much property is going to be left outside your bedroom wall. So I agree with you 100%. We need to,
Mr. Chair, if I could, is there any temporary solutions that we could put in to make sure that the water is at least channeled and diverted for a temporary until we look at how this type of decision could potentially impact the entire county? This would be unique precedent to set, I would think, unless Roy can give me some cover here that we did accept this drainage for this neighborhood, we're responsible for it, and it wouldn't be setting some precedent that we're going to go in and start investing into a privately owned community. You know what I mean? Are we covered there, or what?
We have accepted maintenance of the drainage system out there. In order to go on private property, we would have to have permission from the landowners to do that, and I can prepare documentation to that effect. What the board the board's action in each of these cases is not a quote precedent for the board taking action in a different case.
I understand. I guess, like I said, I just want to make sure that the decision, if we're going to authorize and agree that staff would go in and we would expend tax dollars to try to fix this situation, you know, how much are we talking? You know, what's it going to cost? So I'd love to give staff time to do what Commissioner Salter requested, which is come up with some solutions, and then we would know some costs behind it and that type of deal. So go back to the original question. Stephen, is there something you could do to get us a couple of weeks to better channel that water and kind of just halt the situation where it is now and it wouldn't get any worse while we work on solutions?
Well, I try to be very careful not to make promises I can't keep about what stormwater runoff is going to do. But what we are in the process of doing is we have enlarged one of 2 inlets upstream where they'll take in more water from the street to the north, which is Alderbrook, to channel it underground. We, yesterday, were shooting elevations along the right-of-way, and we found adjacent, close to the Longs property, where we can route some water around a curve to an area that's not experiencing any flooding problems whatsoever, that also goes to the same pond. So there are smaller items that we are able to do and we are currently working on. I can't come in and just block off the water and channel it somewhere else and create this same problem 2 houses down. That's what we have to be very careful of. But the items that we're working on will help, and we will enhance those as quickly as we can get utility spots and get the work accomplished.
Commissioner Salter or Chairman Cole, are you just talking about giving permission to allow staff to go in and work on these temporary solutions right now?
Yes.
Okay.
That's what my meaning was.
Okay,
like
I'm
I say,
comfortable,
yeah.
I'm comfortable with that.
Yeah. And
We
if-
don't need to set a dollar amount or anything like that, just at staff's discretion to kind of stop the bleeding, if you will?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't want these folks to have to come back in here and say, well, half my house is in your pond and you'll be hearing from my attorney. Period.
Temporary fixes, I'm good with while we work on a bigger solution.
Yep.
Mr. Chairman, just so everybody understand, I think what we're all saying, we're going to do everything we can do right now temporarily to try to stop the bleeding. But we are going to come up with a longer range plan on how to work with y'all for permanent long range fixes.
And I absolutely agree with you on the other comment about getting some leverage. Roy, whatever kind of leverage we can get on the developers or whoever, we'll leave it to you to figure that out. So.
Well, we need to have an analysis from the engineering department as to what the issues are.
All right, good. All right, anything else, you folks? I know. You're welcome. You're welcome. Sorry you had to come in here and tell us this story, but unfortunately you did, so we'll deal with it.
Thank you.
Commissioner, I agree with your comments, and thank you guys very much for making these guys feel like the cavalry's on the way. Makes a big difference. It means a lot.
All right. You're welcome. Thank you. All right, anybody else?
Good morning, Jerry Cooey, 6049 Arnie's Way. I like what I hear today. That's been a problem. It truly has. Like I said on Monday, I understand. I'm a property rights guy. I understand we're going to have more people living here. I'm not opposed to that. But just as the 700 houses that's basically in a swamp got through the whole process, or close to the process, we've got to watch this. We have people that have made huge investments. We talk about quality of life. Here we go again. But I'm encouraged by what I hear. I hope that it's not a single incident. I hope holding ponds get bigger, and I hope a little more care and concern. I do have a question. It was asked on social media, is the 700 house subdivision back on the board again because a new sign showed up? notice sign, or was that the original sign?
That's the original sign. You're talking about the rezoning on
Right,
Woodbine. It
right.
is not on the agenda tonight.
Okay, so it's not back up again then?
It is not on the agenda
Okay,
tonight.
all right, thank you. Final item, I'm sure you've had an opportunity to discuss a little bit. I feel the need to talk about the $11,000 again at the fire department. Mrs. Cooey informed me this morning that if you have $11,000 laying around, she'd be happy to take it. This is very troubling to me, and I guess what I'm asking for today is I need to hear what the official county position is, if we're just going to let it slide, if we're not going to try to get the money back, if we're not going to take any further actions. I'd like to hear what the resolution is there, and then that tells me what I need to do.
Mr. Cooey, we've already gotten the money back. We've got the $11,000 back from the East Milton Volunteer Fire Department.
And I appreciate it, and you're a friend of mine. $11,000 was taken from the fire department. I'm talking about the $11,000 that some individuals took. Did you get it back from them?
We didn't take it from the individuals. We had the fire department pay us back. It'd be up to the fire department if they wanted to collect it from the individuals.
Again, we're at a line in the sand where individuals took money and we're punishing the people in that fire department's district by taking $11,000 away from their operating budget. That does not solve the problem. We have a tendency to look the other way on some things, and I'll throw out a couple items for you. We've had a couple driveways built on private property by county, and we kind of kept that under a bushel, and we've had some what I thought was some reasonable complaints against county folks that kind of went away, and we had a commissioner that stole a sign that belonged to the taxpayers, and well, that's not that big of a deal. And now we have 3 individuals that took $11,000. I don't think it was proper for them to take it. I think this whole matter's been handled pitiful. But the main point I want to make today is every time we ignore something like this, all right, the Board of County Commissioners and staff works for the taxpayers in Santa Rosa County. And every time we look the other way on a theft, what do? That encourages more theft. It emboldens people to act in a particular way that is against the wishes and the wills of the taxpayers. I don't believe that they had a rightful claim on that money. I understand the state attorney's office declined to do anything about it. Did we, the county, contact the state attorney's office and tell them just to let it go? You see, and we have public records here, and I guess I'm going to have to start digging in. But I need to know today from the county attorney or you as chairman, have you made the decision to allow those individuals to take $11,000 that I believe would rightly belong to the taxpayers and let them walk with it? That's the question at hand.
Since you asked me as chair, since this was brought up Monday, I'll admit I wasn't aware of it. So appreciate you bringing it to my attention.
Okay.
I have found out that CSX made it as a donation to the side of the fire departments that are, like if you donate to them, there's 2 pots of money. There's the books that they keep for the county and the books that they keep for donations that we don't audit, we don't go into, if I'm correct, Donnie, correct me if I'm wrong, but I've been told that's their side of it and they don't. We don't, but you know, I just found out from what Donnie said that we did get the $11,000 back. I haven't had time to go into it in depth. It doesn't sit well with me. My thoughts are CSX should have made the check out to Santa Rosa County and been distributed through normal channels where everything was accounted for, and I don't agree with people getting paid from that. So I can't say I haven't dropped the ball, but I can honestly say I haven't had time to really dig into it with everything else I've had on my plate in the last few days.
Fair enough. Will 2 more weeks be enough to get an answer for this?
Absolutely.
Mr. Cooey,
Yes.
like Chairman Cole is saying, the East Volunteer Fire Department took that money that was given by CSX, and they took it as if it was a donation and put it into their donation fund that they collect when they go and knock on doors and different things. Through our audit, we told them they couldn't do that. That money should have gone straight to the county. Okay, it was through the audit that we found what had gone on. Now, they paid that money out of that volunteer fund to those employees. I don't know what employees were paid, but they paid it to the employees when it should have been given to the county. So we made them give that $11,000 back. If they want to take that money back out of their volunteer fund and put it back into their operating account, that's up to them. But we don't have the control over making the employees give the money back. And it did get discussed with State Attorney's Office, and I agree with State Attorney's Office agreed not to do anything. But that's the scenario that took place on that. And it was through the audit that we found it. If we hadn't been auditing them, we wouldn't have found it.
And I appreciate that, and that's not the first thing you found, and you're doing a great job. This cannot happen again, and in my mind, I don't think we're done having this conversation. Again, I will tell you, the state attorney declining to do something. I'll tell you right now, if Santa Rosa County picks up the phone and calls Bill Edens and says, we want you to charge something here, he'll do it. All right? And I'm not satisfied with it. Willing to get a resolution on it. I'm fine with
The
that.
comment you just made, though, for us to call state attorney and say we want somebody charged with something, I'd have a hard time making that call because, and go through the scenario with me. I give you $10,000 as a donation to your cause, whether it be fire department or whatever. You also get funding for your cause from the county that we're responsible for to keep audited. You make a decision to legally pay some people out of your $10,000 that I just donated to you. There's, bill deals and laws being broken. So if there wasn't a law during that course broken by that money being paid to somebody, then I don't see how he could charge. But I could certainly, as one of your commissioners, dwell into that and find out more about it.
I can assure you from personal experience that calls have been made to the state attorney's office to let it go. So it works both ways, Commissioner Cole. Fair is fair. We're dancing in technicalities here again. Money was taken that I don't believe was properly taken. There's been no W-2. There was no accounting for it. Bare minimum, that practice, and I've been assured by Brad that practice is over with. But we still have this one hanging here. And as a taxpayer, there needs to be a resolution that protects the taxpayers in this. We'll talk again. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Anybody else?
Hi, everyone. Elise Teague, 3249 Bernath Drive, for the Bernath Place. And these are two of our new board members.
I'm Valerie Owens. I'm a member at large, and my main objective is communication to the community.
I'm Carrie Helm. I'm at 3236 Bernath Drive. I am the assistant treasurer for the Bernath HOA.
Again, we're addressing because we just got our report for a bridge, and I've informed Mr. Furman yesterday, and thank you again for all your assistance. This is getting a lot worse, just FYI, due to the 2 phone calls I just received while we were here. The bridge report, we have to close our bridge. It's not safe. I have a printed copy here if anyone would like to look at it while we're talking. Would anyone like to look at it?
Let's just go ahead and through, you got copies for everybody?
I don't.
All right,
I
let's
only
go
have
ahead
one
with your
copy.
discussion, and then get the copy to the administrator.
Okay.
And then he'll make us some copies that we can review later, because it'd be hard to pass that around and pay attention to you too, so.
It's pretty severe, the damage. The neglect to our bridge is outstanding. I can't even begin to tell you how long this bridge has been neglected is pretty bad, considering there was an MSBU for $172,000, and I found out that that really only repaired the top of the bridge. The most important part of the bridge is the bank caps and the stringers and the pilings. And the bank caps and the stringers have been woefully neglected. And interesting enough, we had additional funds in our MSBU, and we found out, just so you all understand, the board never communicated to the community any issues whatsoever wrong with the bridge. I have not found any communications to our community since the repairs that were done with the MSBU that were completed in 2010. So there was an engineering report that came out after that because the fire department sent a letter saying that they wouldn't provide fire service in 2010, and then an engineering report was done, and it showed that the bank caps and the stringers needed to be replaced. That hasn't happened. Some here and there, but none have really been replaced. The bridge should have had a full replacement on top, or they should have built a brand new bridge after Hurricane Ivan, and it wasn't done. And the thing that's very upsetting to me is going through in 2011, 2012, 2013, 14, and 15, they were taking monies out of the MSBU for bridge repairs that were monies that were not spent due to the drainage problem that was in our community. And I also found a letter of extending the MSBU for a year that was never communicated to the community. So they were using MSBU funds, so there was no communication to the community, nor were there increases in HOA dues to accommodate for repairs or to maintain our access road. I have found nothing in maintaining our access road, which is an issue that Mr. Furman and I have been working on at the present moment. So I just want to give you kind of an idea of what the situation as in the community not knowing what's going on. In addition, since I'm a new person, we closed on May 22nd, we moved in, we got the letter. But before we moved in, we read the covenants and the bylaws, and nowhere in our covenants and bylaws does it state that we're maintaining a bridge, that we're in charge of a bridge, that we're maintaining an access road or the roads in the community, so that we are saving money for the maintenance of that. That is something that, normally in covenants, if you have to maintain something, there's something in the covenants because the common areas are in there. All of those areas are in our covenant. So what I'm just letting you know is that new people coming in, even though you sign the abutting roads and that it's private roads, I don't think it quite clicks with the new buyer that, oh, well, this bridge that I'm crossing is actually a road that is an abutting road. It didn't click. It didn't click with me. I thought it was a county bridge, actually. I'm not defending anyone. I'm just letting you know this is kind of how people think when you're moving in. And the 4 people who bought the houses after the board had known in March, none of us thought about the bridge. I talked to all of them. None of us even thought about it. So, and also the people who are new here who bought in 2016, they didn't think about it either. So, yeah.
On the point of the bridge and not being aware, or not even, I guess, always considering every aspect of the community, there are people who bought houses who did thoroughly do their homework on the bridge as much as they could anyway. And the issue with that is the same issue that we encountered when we first went to Stephen Furman's office with questions back in July. And that is, it's a privately owned bridge, so there's only limited documentation available to the public. So to do your research as someone in the public outside of the HOA requires having that available. Secondly, you can only have the documentation available to you if you're part of an HOA, where you can actually request the documentation from the board, and that's knowing what documentation to even ask for in the first place. So there was a limited available knowledge to even thoroughly understand the situation of the bridge from the home buyer's perspective. That's all.
Also, I mean, and this is something I think the county should seriously think about. While it is a private road, if it's a bridge or if it's a emergency access road, maybe the county should require that documents are given to the county, either to the property appraiser or someone, so that when someone is buying a house, that if a community is not transparent, that at least that information is available, because you guys all got the letter from the fire commissioner. It went to the commissioners.
We discussed it at this board as far as being out there. So it is in, there is public record of that discussion of the bridge being deficient. I've talked personally to the fire chief at Avalon about it, and we brought it here. So I guess my question is, because there's a lot of private, developers choose to build a private subdivision. And whether the gates are working or a bridge is not working or whatever, once it goes past that county to private line, just like we just discussed, we can't go on private property. We can't work on private property without those easements. So I feel bad that, over the years that bridge has become deficient, and now you're new to the community and assumed it was a, public road, which probably most people would, because there's no sign there saying from here on you're on private property, or you're in a private subdivision on private roads. So, it's
well, just curious,
assumption.
Is there a way that the county can, the county can provide, because I didn't know to access those records. I didn't know. I just moved from Japan. Yeah. I was here for 7 days house hunting. Is there something that could be, is there a place where you can either have realtors be able to access that information, or, this is just something for you guys to think about. Sure. If there is an issue, that you could make it public in a way when people are looking for a house to buy, that they are able to see it somewhere. I don't know what that is, but I'm just throwing it out there to try and help people in the future.
All right. Roy, let me ask Roy. Roy, is there disclosure laws in the state?
There is an abutting road maintenance or non-maintenance of a abutting road document that you indicated you'd seen. Correct?
We got that, but it didn't state a bridge.
Well, it said the road, and the road's
a bridge
connected
to me
the
is not a
bridge.
road. A bridge is a bridge, Anyways, so it's just a thought, since you guys have known about it for such a long time.
Well,
I'm just kind of,
maybe the reason there's so much, your people are selling in there because they've been aware of it, and instead of dealing with it as we suggested through an MSBU process to completely replace the bridge, they've chose to put a for sale sign on the property and moved and pretty much passed the buck.
A number of times, yes.
Yeah, and that's.
I won't disagree with you on that.
That process is still available.
We have to report.
Oh, no,
so
that's.
At this point, this is what that actually leads into a next point, so I'm glad you brought that up. MSBU was one point to lead into. which is one of the questions we wanted to ask while we were here. But the second point to bring up with selling the property, yeah, that has happened quite a bit in the past. But right now, our bridge, it's recommended from the Certified Bridge Inspector, KCA, that we actually shut down this bridge until the repairs can be made. The repairs that can be made will restore the load rating at its minimum to 4 ton, so for residential vehicles. If you consider, do you have the list? If you consider fire service, we know that that's out. Emergency medical services, that's about 5 to 7 tons. Garbage, it's about 6 tons. Delivery services, we can call them up and see if they can send smaller vehicles over. So that's not necessarily an issue, but at their typical capacity, it's about 5 ton. So apart from just residential vehicles, once we get those repairs done, we still have a number of services, health and safety services, that are restricted to our community because of this bridge issue. And that leads into MSBU. So from there, we have to report that issue to the buyers, because there's a chance that if someone's house catches on fire and I sell my house to someone, I could be liable. That's a reportable issue, very certainly. So in the past, people have cut and run. That may not be an option for us because of all these new issues that have come to light more recently. Leading into the MSBU, that's one of the main questions. We had contacted...
Hold on that. Let's go over how much everything is.
Sure, absolutely. She's going to go over the numbers before we lead into MSBU, please.
So just so you know, on the road, for the repair for the bridge, I don't know how much that's going to be, the minimal repairs, but it'll probably be, I would say probably minimum 30,000 to 70,000 for just the few things that we need to do to bring it up to 4 tons. And the road access, I just got off the phone with Becky Snyder from CSX Railroad. The railroad will grant the expansion of the railroad and the grade improvement for emergency access only. They will not give us permission for when we have to rip down the bridge and put a new bridge in. They're not going to grant us access to cross the crossing. But they're sending us a contract for the emergency use only. So presently, we're going to be at a 3 to 5 month process starting probably this next week, where it'll be $20,000 for an engineer, minimum of $62,000 for the road, and we're estimating a minimum of $45,000 to $65,000 for the railroad expansion. We don't have the money. We need the money. Is there any way that there are emergency funds, if we get 2/3 of the community to agree, that you could forward emergency funds to us to put into an MSBU for our access road and for minimum repairs? We have currently about $47,000 in our account. $13,500 will go to the engineer that just did the inspection. Another $20,000 will be going to the engineer to do the survey, the road inspection, and the design, the soil inspection and the design for our road. And then we'll need another $62,000 for the road, another...
Hang on just a second, hang on. We can go over numbers all day long.
Yeah.
And we're just going to get confused in numbers. Let's figure out what to do. And this is going to be my suggestion, that, one, Roy or Dan, is an MSBU something that's possible for the repairs, whatever they come up with a list of, if they agree 2/3 to pay the MSBU?
The MSBU for the bridge maintenance has expired, is that correct?
Oh, yeah, we finished paying last year. There are no monies left in the MSBU whatsoever.
I need to look at the documentation on that.
If they put together a package, bring it to you and Dan.
Well, there's timeframes for MSBUs that they've missed for this year. That's the basis for an MSBU is for the non-ad valorem assessment and collection to go through the property appraisers and the tax collector, and that there are those timeframes. We just had our budget hearing and our final adoption of the MSBU rate for this year, that we approved the minutes of that meeting today. So if we can start a process, but in order for it to actually be an assessment on their property tax bill, which is how we collect them, it's going to be next year.
Okay. Dan, would you, my assessment at this point is that these folks need to sit down with you or Mark and Roy, come up with a game plan, bring it back to the board. Because, we're not going to fix nothing today. And
I understand,
give us a bunch of,
but we need...
You've made a good enough argument that I think this board's willing to, tell staff, okay, we want you to sit down with you, meet, see what the possibilities are. As Roy said, we've missed the cutoff for MSBU this year. Is there an emergency? I don't know that. Can we do something on the interim? I don't know that. I don't think any of us commissioners right now could give you an answer on that.
Okay.
But you've made enough of a point that I'm willing to put staff time into working with you.
Thank you.
And let's say, let's get to the bottom of this, I guess, is the best thing. And figure out what can be done, how quickly it can be done, give you some information to go back to the rest of your homeowners with to say, okay, it's going to cost us this much for this many years, but it's the only way to get it right.
Mm-hmm.
And go from there. And as we indicated in the last conversation, we like to expedite that sooner rather than later.
Thank you. The next issue is CSX Railroad. When we tear the bridge down, we're going to have access out of our community.
Okay.
CSX will not allow the private crossing to be used for our community. FDOT and the county have to get involved, and it's going to have to be, the county's going to have to look and figure out what to do. Something that I've been told multiple times is that the county has to close 3 crossings. I found out from Mrs. Snyder that if the county's willing to improve some of their crossings, that they would consider that instead of closing crossings due to our situation.
Okay, let's add that to the whole mix as far as what we got to discuss, because again, we're not going to come up with it. And CSX will tell you one thing, you'll tell Mr. Furman something different, they'll tell me something different. We several years ago, I wanted to put a crossing for pedestrians.
Yep,
at a certain place. We spent $15,000 in engineering, and then at the final hour, they said, well, no, we're not going to let you do that. So let's add that to the whole package, because certainly, you can't spend 4 nights or 4 months, 3 months, whatever it takes, bivouacked outside of your home or on your island. So, that's going to have to be part of the conversation that we take up as far as how we handle that. And certainly, I would hope that the county would have a little more leverage with CSX than individuals do. So. And
just so you know, I'm going to do what my mom taught me. I'm writing a letter to the president of CSX, and I'm going to write a letter to the CEO of CSX. I'm going to write a letter to the president of their board of directors, because my mom actually owns stock. So I'm going to be writing letters to all of them. I will copy the county commission on these letters.
And the county, copy us and then include some maps with them.
And I'm going to provide a history of our community with the help of Mr. Furman and other people. I'm going to provide a history of what has happened with our community, and I'm also going to be providing the various maps showing how we're landlocked and other things. And I'm gonna chase the bunny until I catch it and see if I can get a resolution and get them to help and step in some way. And we realize that this is going to be a long process, and we also realize that our bridge is going to be a long process. So,
We're not going anywhere. We're going to be here for you. And
I just had one final comment. Thank you for hearing us out. And I just wanted to speak on behalf of myself, my family, the other board members that are not here today, and our community members who are now informed and continue to be informed as things come up, that we're committed to this process of doing things right and getting it right once and for all. So that means continued maintenance, making sure this never happens again.
well, I can honestly say after 15 and a half years on this board, and I think Commissioner Salter will back me up with 2 more years than that we've never had a contingency from Bernath Place come to us trying to resolve this the right way. It was either patchwork or else they run scared out the door that they didn't want to spend that kind of money. I've talked to the chief, talked to Sid at Avalon. He's emphasized it to them. So I thank you for coming in today. Let's get this thing moving. Let's do it right. It's a beautiful community out there, and you're certainly your taxpayers and have a right to come here and express yourself, and for this board to help in any way we can legally, because it's still a private community, but know that you have our help and the leverage of this board to help you with CSX and the process of the MSBU. So.
Thank you. And just remember, we still have 24 lots in there that aren't built that you aren't getting many taxes on. So we're trying to also help you that we get houses built in there so that your taxes increase, which will help us maintain our community better too. So it's a team effort between us. This is something we want to make our community the nice community that it is. It's a beautiful community, and we want to make it better. So thank you so much.
All right, Dan, did you have anything? Okay, make sure you get with the county administrator and get all contact information, and that's all. First steps is what we got to do. So. All right, thank you. All right, anybody else? All right, then we are adjourned.